Dakshana has Dakshana Alumni Networks, which is done. So basically, most of the audience is from the engineering or medical background. So I
Okay.
guess the finance is a bit difficult for us to digest in, but I'm sure that you will make it a little bit easier to begin with. So and I agree with you that this is the most important skill in life that we need to possess
Yeah.
in terms of to lead a better life or taking better decisions in the future. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 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 And it's just generally been very made complicated for no really reason. So if you just keep it like this in basics in your site, then it's not really very difficult. But with that, I'll just start my presentation. Let me just switch off my camera for bandwidth, and then maybe we'll start later whenever we need. Yeah. Okay. You can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can see you soon.
Okay. Okay. So we start. So I'll start first with disclaimer. And some the things that personal finance is generally more personal than finance. And when you really go on any social media or any this thing, there are a lot of generic advices which people give. But when it comes to money, you will be the best just to manage your money, and you will be the best just to know what to do with your money, because it's not just about calculation and all. It is also a lot got to do with, hello, yeah, a lot got to do with mindset. And all of us have a different background. We have a different way to look at money. We have a different way to probably our spend appetite is different, our risk appetite is different. So whatever that we go through, or even later whenever you come across, please remember this, that it is very very personal. What works for one person, it's unlikely that it will work in the same way for another person. If somebody says that, okay, yeah, it's great to rent a house and it's very silly to buy, probably for him it may or may not apply for you. Similarly for car or any other investment decision. Another one is, yeah, I'm not a SEBI registered advisor. I cannot give any stock specific or mutual fund specific advice. I cannot tell you how you should devise your portfolio. But what I can tell you, so you must be thinking, okay, what are we going to do? What I can tell you is some basics, some fundamentals, and I can tell you the mistakes that I have made. Okay, so don't think that chartered accountants are very smart with their own money and all, because I have started, I've made my own mistakes. I bought wrong products, and then maybe after some time when I really had time to think over, I went through my decisions, went through some books, understood things in little more in detail, and then I realized that I also had a lot of work to do. So it just probably, if you avoid some of the mistakes, that itself will be a great start. So with that, can I just use that question answers in the toolbox? Will that be okay?
Abhirup.
Yes, sure. Okay. Okay, so do you want us to use the
So in that
conversation?
conversation, I will just start some questions. Maybe you can all the participants feel free to answer. I'll put the first question. Let's see. So if your employer doesn't have a group medical cover, you should have a medical insurance for yourself. Any answers for this? No, nobody wants to give answers. Can you all see the chat window, right?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, you can even unmute yourself and answer. Huh? It's just yes or no.
Yes, ma'am. I think one should purchase
Yes, ma'am.
medical insurance.
Yeah, I'll put the next one. So what do you think is the amount you have to pay in your credit card statement? Is it like the minimum amount or the full amount or just the penalty?
I think paying in full is the most important thing in credit card use.
Full amount, that's good. What about term insurance? Is it for somebody who is dependent? For somebody who doesn't have dependents also should have a term insurance? Okay, that's okay. No problem. We'll see that later. Okay. So do you think SIP is a less riskier to invest than directly doing stocks? No, any answer?
I think both are riskier if we don't know like where are we investing.
Okay. So do you think it is better to buy a house and pay EMI or it's better to pay rent?
Buy an house.
Buying is better. Okay.
It is situation dependent. If we want to that for permanent, then buying is more relevant option. But if we want to stay for some time, you can say for a year or two, then paying rent is more relevant option.
Right. Okay. So as I said, we'll not give any answers as a right or wrong, but just to probably start to get you to think. Let's go ahead. So this is one. I'll just start with the story why we have to invest and all. So this is something which maybe you would have seen somewhere in past or somebody must have told you that there was a story in which a king who was very proud of his skills of playing chess and he thought nobody could really beat him. And he had bet with somebody who said that if he beats, all he wants is just a grain of ice is that equal to, so he has to put one in one box, put another, double it in the second box, put maybe 4 in the third box and keep doubling that. And at the end of the bet, he realized that he didn't really have enough to do it. So how much do you think if you keep doubling this, how many grains will be there in the 64 square? You can, don't try and Google, but probably you can use your math skills.
2 power 63 in the last square.
So it will come to, this is basically just to show that how it compounds. Okay, and then if you keep doing it, it will probably be 1.4 trillion metric tons, or equal to something which the whole world produces. So this is basically just to show that if we leave our money for compounding and if it grows, we have no idea how much it is going to grow. And you might have heard some of these stories that if you had bought, instead of buying this thing in 99, instead of buying this thing, if you were buying from Amazon, you had bought one share, it would have probably been millions of dollars now. Or somebody who said that instead of buying a car in 93, if you bought a share of Maruti, you probably would have been able to buy a Jaguar or Land Rover now. So that's the power of compounding. That's how money grows. But how does it grow? How does it? The first rule is you don't have to necessarily disturb the compounding. Let the money stay, let the money grow. And to do that, how do we start it? Okay, so before you start, there are certain things which we must make sure that it doesn't disturb our compounding, it doesn't disturb our savings, or it doesn't disturb our investment, the right word. And what are the things that we must do to make sure that we stay on course? So medical insurance is the first thing. Insurance itself is a super product. I think one more story, please excuse me for that, but I can probably in 2003, Wimbledon had bought an insurance for cancellation of the event. And before that, they took the insurance. It is probably for 40 years, 60 years, maybe after Second World War, the tournament has never been cancelled. But still, they have taken a $1.5 million insurance against the cancellation. And what happened in 10 years, they probably paid 15 million pounds as insurance premium. And then another 7 years, they paid another 1.5 million pounds a year, which probably almost close to 25 million pounds. And then what happened? It came 2020, which is when the Wimbledon got cancelled, and the money which they got was 174 million pounds. So that's basically insurance. We may think that for 10 years they have wasted money, they have been paying and they've got nothing in return. Similar, we may think about medical insurance, because all of us in our 20s, 25, 30s, very fit, we don't really wish to fall sick, touch wood, and we don't really have so many dependents on us. But even then, the cost of medical, when you are younger and you take, it is much cheaper than when you take as the age grows and the age-old related issues grows, or even the number of dependents grow. Similarly, we may think like initial question that I asked, that if your employer is covering you, should you still take medical insurance? The answer is most certainly yes. Medical insurance, even if your employer is covering you, it will still have certain riders, it will have certain limits, and it will still probably in the best case cover you, may not cover the family, may not cover parents. So it's best to take medical insurance and read all the if you go into any online site, it's very easy to compare what are the good insurance, what are the inclusions, what are the exclusions. And maybe with little bit of this thing, you will also find out what is the best one which covers and claim ratios. So that's on medical insurance. Once you take it, you know that anything untoward happens, at least you will not have to run around, and you will not have to break your savings, you will not have to break your investment, and somebody else will be able to cover your exceptional cost. Then the second one is any high debt cost, which is maybe personal loan, any rolling balance on credit card, any other loan, maybe the vacation. I will not consider a home loan here. Is my screen gone?
Oh, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Can't see my screen somehow. Yeah. So when you roll over the balance on credit card, the interest that credit card companies charge, which will probably 3%, 3.5% a month, and apart from that, there will be some late payment charges, and eventually the amount, even if you have to, even if it is like 25,000-30,000, which you are rolling for about another 3-4 months, you will probably pay same amount as interest and charges. And the card companies are also very smart. When you see your balance, there will be like a big box in which there will be a big font written minimum balance. So a lot of people I have seen, they get tricked thinking that, oh, this is what I have to pay and not the full amount, and because I can always pay it next month. But that's not how it goes. And even if you think that, okay, you are having certain FD and you don't want to break, it's very silly to really pay 3% per month and on maybe in your bank balance is a 3% per year. So it's really criminal to really have any balance on credit card and roll it over or withdraw money out of credit card instead of debit card. Emergency fund. Now, why emergency fund? Anybody here, I mean, can tell me why would the car have brakes? What purpose does it serve? Anyone?
To avoid accident.
Okay. Then anything else? That's pretty straightforward, right? It must be something else.
Will the brakes
If
are
it,
to prohibit accidents and to be safe, on the safe side always?
Right. Then think little hard.
if we want to stop the car, uh,
You want to stop the car. Yeah, again,
As we saw
straightforward.
red light, we can stop the car.
Yeah, but think little hard. I mean, it is to stop the car is nice, but the reason why you have brakes in the car because it allows you to go faster. Because you know that your car has brake and you will be able to stop whenever you want. Imagine if the cars didn't have brakes, we would not be able to. We will not have that hard to go on a particular speed because you don't know how to stop. So when you have emergency fund, you know that you have certain money kept aside, and you can use anything additional, any bonus, any probably money that you get, any gain that you make, you will be able to invest it in a more long-term product. And that's basically is your peace of mind. When you don't have an emergency fund, when you don't know how much to have emergency fund, whether is it 2 months, is it 6 months, again, like I said, you will have to figure out what is the best that you have to have. Some people are comfortable with having even 2 months in the balance. Some people probably will need 2 years. But that whatever that gives you peace of mind is what is going for you to keep aside, and then balance money is for you to invest for your long-term purposes. So that's the use of emergency fund. And last one is a term insurance. We, of course, this one is again a long topic, but yeah, this one is again a long topic. But we'll have to see how much, again, what value at what juncture of life we should take is something which everybody has to figure out on their own. But this is one thing which is again a must. And don't mix this with any of your savings. The term insurance is basically something, the money which you pay, and just hope and pray you never have to take it anytime soon. So any product which is mixing insurance with investment, we'll probably see it later in the presentation. But anything which is mixing insurance with investment is not a great thing to go for. Yeah. So once we have done all these things, you have ticked all the boxes. Now we are ready to go for our investment journey. Which is it same or different? Any answers? Is it same? Is it different? How do you differentiate between the two?
Investing involves risk, but saving does not.
Correct.
And investing is obviously for long term,
Yeah.
and saving is like it's a part of our life.
Correct. So saving is something which we teach our kids also, right? They try and put some money aside, your piggy bank. So, and Indians and anyway have been taught to save while all of us are young. Our parents must have taught, our dada dadi keeps teaching. So first of all, the rationale behind the two is different. The why is different. So saving is something which it's a little money which we keep aside for something which you need immediately. Maybe next month you want to buy a phone, or there is some renovation that you want to do in the house, or there is something which there is a vacation, maybe in another 6 months time you are due to go on some holiday, and that is the money when you need it handy. You can't afford to have this probably input in a market in a place where there is volatility, or you are not sure whether you will get it immediately or not. So you can't say that okay, I will put this in real estate because it's extremely illiquid. So something which is liquid, something which is handy, and it doesn't have any market related risk. And why investment? The reason for investment is pretty simple. We want to beat the inflation. That's the only probably one reason. If it's in one reason, then it is this, that we want to beat inflation. We want to make sure that we are able to meet our life goals, whether it is retiring early, which is that FIRE, which is everybody wants to pursue these days, financial independence and retirement of early retirement. So whether it is FIRE, it is our for in your cases, it could even be some studies which you want to do after 5-6 years, which has a big fees, or it could also be buying a house at some point of time. or at some point of time, in my case, I probably make sure that I have enough funds for my kids' higher education. So all those objectives are different, and because the objectives are different, where we put the money is again different. Like I said, if it's a short term, then we want to put it in bank FD, where we know it's not going to fluctuate much, and there will be a little bit of interest that it will carry. Or we put it in any liquid fund. Again, lesser of a risk, lesser of a return, and something which is money which I need after maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, then my horizon is different, my risk appetite is different, and it has to earn more than inflation in that case. So it will obviously, the choice will be equity. And again, there are so many other types of equity which we'll see. Is it mid cap? Is it large cap? Small cap? International equity? So the place where you park the money will be different. Now, how do we do this? Is generally everybody does, right? You have income, you have your EMI, you spend, and then whatever is left is what we either save or we invest. And this is something which all of us do. In my most part of my life, even I have followed this formula. But how do you change this formula when if you want to make sure that you don't you meet your goals? So because all of this investment is ultimately to meet certain goals, you reverse it. You first figure out how much is the amount that I want to invest, and then whatever is balanced is what is used to pay for our wants or needs or our spending. So this is one thing which is something which is very helpful in ensuring that we stick to our disciplined way, because when it is spent, we don't really figure out. Maybe it is this month I have like a phone, and next month I like a bigger TV, and the following month I want to go to on a holiday, and then my savings will never met. I'll never be able to do, because I'm just pushing it to the following month and the month after that. And one another good tool to make this work is have designated bank accounts. So you have your salary coming in one bank account, and swipe some amount into another bank account, which in your mental you have calculated, this is my investment account and this is my spend account. Whatever is lying in your investment account is not for your consumption purpose. You keep it aside and you touch it only where you want to put it, either any of the investments that you have agreed. It's not for your vacation, it's not for your car, it's not for your phone, it's not for paying any of the food bills or a party bill. And keep whatever that you want to use in a separate bank account, because that way those amounts are different, they stay separately, and you are very clear that you are not that there is a lot of guilt when you say that, okay, I want to spend out of my investment account, and the guilt will not let you really spend. So that's one tool which will help you manage this. And from EMI, with, let's say, debt. So what kind of debts are good? Okay. Any questions? Anybody wants to say what kind of debts are good?
I don't think
Anyone?
any of the dates are good.
Hmm?
I don't think any of the dates are good.
Any of the debts are good, okay. So basically anything which helps you grow. So let's say you've taken and I don't think anybody in India can really buy a house without a home loan. So home loan is definitely something which you pay about now. So it's available at it's up 6%, 6.5%. So with the such a low rate of interest, you are creating an asset, or at least it will help you this thing. But against that, if you take a loan to, let's say, go for a Goa vacation, that's clearly not a good kind of a debt, because it doesn't, there is no asset, there is no underlying asset. It's not something which is going to, yeah, a lot of you might be thinking it is like you live only once, right? YOLO. So it's fine. When are you going to, but again, all this requires a little bit of planning. So if you think that there is something which you want very desperately, please plan your finances around that rather than go for a loan. Because even in that pandemic, there are a lot of people whom I know have taken a big car on loan and a big house on loan. And we always think, right, that the life is going to go on. I'm in a secure job. I'm in a company where my increments are given 7, 8%, 10% is like a birthright. And after that, suddenly something like COVID happens, or maybe 2008-9, when a lot of people, my friends, not me thankfully, but a lot of my friends had lost job in 2008-9. So when something like this strikes, or maybe you've taken a home loan and then suddenly you realize that, okay, you also want to start a family, and you probably have to either take a break, take a sabbatical. So these things in life, you never know when it's going to strike you. So any debt which you have taken for either to meet any vacation, or you have taken a personal loan, all these fancy gadgets on EMI, it really doesn't. It's a drain on the finance. But anything which is like a home loan, again, home loan, there are percentages which we will again see how much of a percentage should be part of your earnings. Because if something which is making you pay 50-60% of your salary as a EMI, again, it doesn't really make sense, because if it's gonna give you sleepless nights, it's not really worth it. So if you say where to invest, we'll start with the first class of investment, which is equity. So what is it, equity? It's basically participating in the equity capital. You are owning the business. So when you say that, okay, I'm going to buy that Zomato's IPO next week, you are owning the business of a part of the business of Zomato. And whatever good or bad the Zomato does is going to reflect in the share price that you have. So one of the reasons why, one of the first fundamental reason to invest in equity, where you understand the business. So if you are sure that, okay, this is how Zomato is going to do, and there is no way it will eventually, it is going to only do better in India, or better do in their business even outside India, please go ahead and buy. But any of you who don't understand their algorithm, or how they work, or do they really make money on every delivery, then better to stay away. Similarly, any IT company, or any HUL or Maruti, whenever you buy a share, you basically become owner of that company. And that's how it's very important for you to understand how it makes money. What is probably their, how do they grow their top line? How do they grow their profits? How do they, any external changes in the world changes, how it's going to impact? So if there are shortage of chips, right, how is it going to impact the automakers? And is it going to basically impact their production? And if it impacts their production, their sales will be down. So as long as you understand these things, by all means, go ahead and buy those companies direct equity. But without this basic understanding, if you are gonna buy that, okay, somebody has told, so I'll buy, it's not really gonna work very well. So always remember that you are owning the business. These are rules. There are enough and more information on all the listed companies on the website. That you will get. So at any board meeting that they have done, any major decisions that they have taken, any big order that company have done, you will be able to track these things on the SEBI's website, or a lot of other websites which will show you that. But always make sure that you follow the company and you understand what is happening. And what are the requirements to have invest in equity? You need an online trading account and a DP account. The DP is basically depository participant. So that will make sure that we earlier used to have those physical papers and all. It's not there anymore. Also for IPO, you will need to have a UPI ID to go and activate your trading account and participate in the IPO. Like we said, basic understanding of how markets work. So some Gyan you can take from either internet or books on what is Nifty, what is Sensex, what are the companies, at what point of time they are included in Nifty or Sensex, and how is it tracked. So then there are mid cap index, there is IT index, there is auto index. So ensure that you have done enough homework, and it's what we are doing today is actually just dipping our toe. So if this interests you, please go and read and know about how do these things really happen before you put your hard-earned money into any equity. So No. What are the different types of capitalization of market? So in large cap is basically something which is 20,000 crore and above. Capitalization is a large cap, and 20 to 5,000 I think is mid cap, and anything up to 1,000 crore is the small cap. So companies and how do we find capitalization? Capitalization is basically number of shares multiplied by price. So you must have heard that suddenly TCS has become 1 trillion company, which basically means the share price of TCS multiplied by all the shares that they have issued so far is a trillion. Facebook has become $1 trillion, or I think Google, Amazon already $1 trillion companies. Similarly, we also have large cap, which will Reliance is the large cap, and I think TCS has now exceeded Reliance in the capitalization. So all those companies. And then how do mid cap work? So when you buy large cap, it's basically you are buying a company which is having a slow and steady growth and less of a volatility compared to mid cap and small cap. So these are some of the stuff which it's extremely important to know these and understand and how business and all those things before doing any kind of investment. What are the types of market? There is IPO, which is initial public offering. There is OFS, which is offer for sale, where the company is giving the share to register for the same. And secondary market, where the shares are already traded on the exchange, and we buy either on NSE or on BSE. And these are some of the basic finance understanding, which is again not very, very difficult to understand at all. So how fast is the sales growing? P, which basically price to earning. So if the company is earning, let's say 50 rupee per share, and if it is having a 250 rupees of the share price, then the P is about it's a 5 P share. So if you see currently, the market is trading almost at 25, 27 P. So whatever is the earning of the company, 27 times is going to be the share price. And then price to book. Now again, there are different sectors where these things are applicable. Like if you see a banking company, P is not really very relevant. What is important is what is the loan book. So as a percentage of the what is the price of the building company to be tracked. Similarly, EBITDA, which is the earning growth, or PAT, which is a profit growth. So don't go by the earnings are not there, then I don't think the market is gonna give it a very high share price. So ultimately, try and look at the essence. What is it that it's trying to say? Also, cash flow. So how much is the one important thing not written here, but to track is the how much is the free cash that a company is giving, and is it giving dividend or is it just putting the cash back in its own growth? So if you try and study Amazon has never ever given a dividend. And if money it makes, it invests back into AWS, Amazon Web Services. But after all these years of investment, today Amazon is one of the most valuable companies in all of the global markets. So again, whether the company is generating cash and distributing like ITC, distributing as a dividend, or investing in its own growth, then take your pick, whatever that suits you the best. And what are the costs associated with equity? This is extremely important to know, because the more you trade and more you transact, the higher is going to be the cost. So every transaction on a stock exchange will have a cost like a broker. There will be some STT, which is the charges which government charges, any DP, because all our stocks are going to be in dematerialized format. So all DP depository participants, whoever that you open account, either HDFC or Axis or Zerodha, they all will have some charges here. And every time you sell, there is taxation. So it's important to know that even if you have made certain money in a this thing, net, whether how much is going to be your profit is going to be after all these charges that you have paid. solve the transaction cost. So these are some basics for you to keep in mind to invest. And it's, please remember, it's extremely volatile investment class. So last year or so market has been going down, and that is after probably giving more than double returns in last 1 year. But I mean, since you all are I'll give some engineering jargon that it's not a bug, but it's a feature. So equity markets have to be volatile. They come with volatility. There is uncertainty, but that's how people make money. If it was not volatile, all this money which people make in the market would not be there. But how do we do it? We basically make sure that put our money in something which we are sure that this company, I know for a fact that if not today, then at least in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years is gonna give me money. So when you have that kind of confidence, go ahead and put your money in that company. Move on to mutual fund. So mutual fund is, what is it? It's basically an instrument or a vehicle to participate either in an equity or debt. So we said equity, we already seen it. It basically pools different people's money and puts into equity of the company which we just saw. Or it will pool all the different money from investors and put it in a debt equities, basically a loan to any company, your loan against any ICD, and there are different durations of this loan, whether short term, long term, overnight, liquid. So again, mutual fund will have either large cap mutual fund, a mid cap, or a small cap. It depends on whichever fund that you have selected. Similarly, what I just said, the debt fund will be on liquid debt or long duration, short duration, or only government securities, which will have again the lowest return. Then of course there are hybrid funds, which basically a mix of debt and equity. And then all of these will have very, very detailed disclosure. So it will exactly tell you how much. If it's a balance advantage debt, then there will be more of a debt with a small amount of equity, or a balance amount of equity, where most of will be equity and a small amount will be debt. Or then there are dynamic asset allocation, where the fund manager will decide how much of percentage should go to debt and how much to equity based on his or her outlook on the market. So again, this is again a good instrument to invest if you don't want to do a lot of due diligence, don't want to study too much on a company and don't understand a lot of things. So it's the best way to start investing is mutual fund. And again, it's a very regulated lots of disclosures. There are charges are very, very transparent. How much are the return any fund, whether it is in terms of risk appetite, how risky the fund is again also shown, but match your risk rate against the risk current. And it also comes with cost, which is management fees which the fund will charge, which is the percentage of your investment value. There are some exit loads, and there are taxations when you sell. So all these things again part of mutual fund. This is something fairly recent index funds, which is one generally we call it passive investing, and it will index in the index companies. So if you say that there are 30 companies in the Nifty, the fund will not really look or figure out where to invest. They will ensure that they invest in those 30 companies in the same ratio that they are part of the index. And what you basically do is you don't really have to figure out as long as the market keep going up, the index fund will also keep going up. And specifically because the index funds have a very, very low cost. The fund manager really doesn't have to do any due diligence. He doesn't need to study or speak with the management and track anything. All he has to just or mirror the index, and hence the costs are. And the best way to start investing is generally to put your money in index funds. And you see how it is going up and down and try and read. At least there's no need for you to hold your money to figure out that start or just. There are some other avenues like gold, which slow all year. invest in digital gold. So there are mutual funds which will hold physical gold out of the money that we have given them, and of course there are exchange traded funds, so it will again invest in digital gold. So if you have a physical gold, there will be storage, and if you are buying in a digital gold, then again there are transaction costs, there are taxation, all those things. And then there is real estate. So again, the house, either commercial, residential, whatever that we want. I mean, a lot of the way Narendra Modi policy is going on, he wants to make sure that real estate doesn't really remain an investment class. So you will see that there are huge amount of tax breaks, taxation that we earlier were given. All the interest on home loan has now been capped at up to 2 lakhs only. Earlier, you could even have a 30-40 lakhs of loan and claim all of that interest as a deduction out of salary. It doesn't work anymore. Also, it's extremely cumbersome to buy and sell because of all the taxation which is there. So this is losing, but as long as the land is limited, this will again always keep giving some return. But the most important thing for real estate is, number one is location. Number two is that wherever you buy, it's no point buying a cheap house. You know that the returns are not going to be there because it is somewhere in an obscure corner of the, and then there are. So again, it's a asset class, but you never know how good or bad it will do. And definitely not as good as it has done in last, maybe how it grew between 2003, 2004 till about 12, 13. That kind of return are not likely to come in real estate anymore. So, and again, there are now REITs, so that real estate related investment trusts and all those are again some different products which have been allowed by SEBI recently. And try and read about that also. How does those instruments work, and how do you can invest in real estate through mutual fund kind of a route. So what is it? So these are the things which we have seen. What is it that can be done? But what is it that you should not do? There are certain, as long as you don't do this, anything else is always going to give you reasonable return. What is it to not to do? Anything that you want to mix your short-term trading with long-term investing. So of course there are traders and there are people who make money in trading, and I'm sure that it's something which people do as a living, but it is definitely not aside for some long-term investments and long-term goal-based investments. So because the way the market goes up and down, there are people who will make money, but there are more people who actually lose money. And I'm not sure how many of you really follow Nitin Kamath Zerodha. He's so Zerodha currently has close to 20% of all the DP accounts or trading accounts happen on Zerodha platform. And he had recently made a statement that 99% of the people who 99% of the people who trade on Zerodha actually lose money. And it's only 1% who are able to beat the returns of FD, the bank FD returns. But the sad part is that even the 99% people who are not really able to beat the bank related benchmark also think that they are making money. And this is after considering all costs of transaction costs, any brokerage, again, like I said earlier, mixing insurance with investment, any endowment plans, any money back plans. Those two have a different objective. The insurance has a different objective, investment again has a different objective. So anything is trying to mix and match the two and try to tell you that, okay, it's not going to work. It will neither work for insurance nor it will work as investment. So please don't get into something which is going to mix these two things. Any LIC policy, any money back plans is not something which is going to help you build a wealth, or any complex products or instruments which you don't understand. And this is most important. Leverage equity or any buying any equity bond, and it has to be written with a heavy interest cost. So all those options and futures and leverage trading is something which is gonna be all the destroyers of wealth instead of wealth builders of wealth. And what is it that I gonna work over a period of time? We get our objective right, which is any investment has basically three objectives. The first is gonna be liquidity. So you have to ensure that whenever you need the money, it is available. Whether it is for your short-term needs or your long-term needs, thing which you need in 3 months, 6 months, or 6 years time. But your plan has to be make sure that it is available when you need, and hence you put short-term money in a different kind of instrument versus long-term in a different kind. And of course, the second is it generates.
Your voice is breaking actually.
Is this better? I have not changed. Wait, I'll just change my Wi-Fi and come back. Is this better? Clearer?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
And the other most important is avoid downside. So one most important rule is if you don't bet, you can't win, right? You don't bet, you can't win. But if you lose all your chips, you can't bet. So any money that you lose is gone forever. And if you don't have money to start with, then how is it ever gonna grow? So avoiding any foolhardy decisions is more important than going for something which is a 3%, 4% more return.
Sorry
And
to
just stick
interrupt.
to common sense approach.
It's not
Hello?
visible. Ma'am, your slide is not visible.
Is it? Okay. Just a minute. Give me a minute. Can see now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is where we were. So just a simple common sense approach, which basically makes sure that you are disciplined, you are frugal in your spending, and ensure that you have every month some amount of saving is happening or some amount of investment is happening, is something which will go a long way. Give attention. So putting money and forgetting about it is again doesn't work. This is something which I have done personally, and I know that I have suffered a lot because a lot of stuff which I had invested probably before my kids were born, and then in that whole rush of life, never bothered to look at what happened to it. I just, if I wish I had seen and paid some attention, moved some money out of something which was not working, I probably would have done much better in my personal life. So it definitely needs your attention. It's putting money in forgetting. You will get this. Forgetting doesn't mean that you don't even look at it. At least once in a year, it's important to look at all your investment and see whether it is still serving the purpose that you started with. Give it time and giving it again patience. So something, if the market has suddenly fallen, is not really a way to exit. Anybody who had actually exited equity market in 2020 of March will probably never be able to make this kind of return in maybe another 10 years, 15 years time, because the way it kind of bounced back, it was beyond anybody else's imagination. So it requires time, it requires patience, and unless you don't need, if you need the money, by all means go ahead and withdraw. But if you don't need the money, it has to be there and keep making sure that it keeps growing there. And asset allocation, like we saw earlier, that whether it is a short term or a long term. So whenever it is a long term, you use the long-term vehicles, which is equity mutual fund, and if it is short-term, then you use the short-term vehicles, which is bank, fixed deposit, liquid funds, etc. So this again is very, very important to make sure that you get this also right. These are some general money rules. Again, I'm using the word general because whether it works for you or not is only you can decide. Again, this is something which whenever you start going, you will it is likely to come to you very, very often. So if your investment in equity should be 100 minus age. So if the age is 30, you can invest 70% of your money in equity. Again, it's very general. I would probably say that somebody who has kept enough amount of emergency fund and doesn't have a lot of liabilities, there's no need to follow this. You can even have 100% in equity or even 90% in equity. So again, a general rule, and suit yourself to tweak it to make it work for what is going to work for you. Again, EMI not to be more than 30% of your net income. Again, it's a general rule, but yeah, anything which is more is going to reduce your capacity to either invest in equity, or you will have to make some compromise in your lifestyle. So this is a good rule, but you will have to figure out how much is first of all net income, and how much is going to be your other discretionary expenses, and how much you want to really save for your long term. Again, this is a good rule, 72. So how long it will an investment will take to double. So if the interest rate is 9, then your money will double in 8 years. And let's say the interest rate is going to be 18, then the money will double in 4 years. But anything which is going to tell you that your money is going to double in 2 years, 3 years, is basically it's a bait. And anything which is generally too good to be true, then it is exactly that. It will really be too good to be true. It's not likely to be true. So anything which a very high rate of return in trying to tell you that you will be able to make money in another 2 years, 3 years time, then please, it should really put your antennas up. This is some study material which I'll recommend. This is something which I have personally read. So there is, of course, there are huge reams of papers and digital available. But if you want to start, then the Varsity by Zerodha on YouTube is again a very, very good material. It teaches basics. It also teaches advanced, depending on how much is your appetite and how much you want to learn. Then there is also book. There is these 2 books which are something you can start. There are a host of other, but you can start with Let's Talk Money by Monica Hallan, and then there is a new one which is Some Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, which is the latest one. Then there are some fund managers you can follow, the DSP Merrill Lynch, Kalpen Parekh or Radhika Gupta in Edelweiss, or Zerodha, which is Nitin Kamath and Nikhil Kamath, the 2 brothers. But anybody who's giving you stock specific tips, or you're teaching you trading, or telling you that these are the stocks which you should invest, then please be careful of all those people. Anything which is going to teach you like overnight 2 दिन में trading सीखो, please don't fall for all those things. Or you can also take some of the paid subscriptions like Prime Minister, Value Research, FinCal. Again, they also have very, very good material to start your investment journey. Any question, answers?
Ma'am, I have one about the exiting strategy, and when it is all finished, when the long term is over, and how do we exit? Am I audible?
Yeah, of course you are.
Yes. So I want to know when to exit. Means at what age, at what stage of life we should exit after the long term.
See, it depends on whether if you are in a mutual fund kind of a thing, then unless your horizon or your outlook is not changed, there's no or the fund has fallen out of favor, then otherwise there is no reason to move out. Unlike let's say something which is like Franklin Templeton has happened, then obviously it makes sense to move your money out of another fund. Or if you think that okay, you have invested in certain company, but you something else is more this thing. Unless you don't need money, there is no need to take the money out of a particular asset class. So if you have decided that okay, I want to make sure that say 80% of my money should be in equity, then you should not really bother and take the money out because the market has fallen. Unless, of course, you need the money and say that, okay, this is something which is a big this thing, then I want to take the money out. Unless, and if you are tracking specific companies or a specific sector, and you think that, okay, this is not going to do very well in near future now, and you want to exit, then yeah, by all means, go ahead and do it. So
And
let's say,
what about the age? What about the age limitation? Means suppose we are 60 years of age, okay? So what to do then? Means
so it depends. See, there are people who are still active and working at the age of 60 also. So there is no need for you to again take out money and put it this thing. But yeah, if you think that there is your fixed income is reducing and you definitely need something which is going to give you that monthly income, then there are systematic withdrawal plans. So you can put the money out of equity to say which is a more stable debt, and then use a systematic withdrawal plan. So all those things are done, but you have to first figure out what is your objective, number one. And as long as your objective has not changed, or your risk appetite has not changed, or the companies that you are tracking has not really changed, then there is no need to pull out the money like that because of any other pressure. Yeah, somebody
no,
written
that's
Slow
good.
Investor. It's a good book. I have not read, but I'm sure it's it's there in my reading list eventually.
Hi, ma'am. I have a question. I have questions. Two questions actually. Thanks. First of all, thanks for all the information. My first question is buying dividend-paying stocks for passive income a good idea? And second question is, what is your view on crypto market, especially crypto exchanges in India?
I have no idea about crypto. I've never tried to find out what it is. So please take it as a apology from my side.
All right, you can answer.
As far as dividend investment concerned, yeah, it's a good way. A lot of people really follow it. But why would you? I mean, if you really want something which is a steady income and all, then why not interest? Why just dividend? The reason why people really invest in stock, that again, my personal view, okay, don't take it as right or wrong. But my personal view, the reason why we invest in stock is because we want the stock to grow, and we want to beat the inflation. If the stock is going to give me 3%, 4% dividend, then I might as well put in the interest, no, in an interest-bearing security.
Yes. Yeah, that clears my mind. Thanks.
So ITC is something.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Rajesh.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, I have one question, ma'am. If basically, ma'am, in my family, I am the only a person who is earning money. Okay, so I just want to know where should I be? I will invest. I mean, I can invest in mutual fund, trading, or in bank like fixed deposit or something. So, what will
See,
be better?
first of all, you will have to figure out what are you going to save or what are you going to investing for. No, if you want to just make sure that you have some money handy, then the equity is definitely not the thing we should look at also. But if you think that, okay, there is something which even if tomorrow becomes 30% down, I am okay because I'm not going to touch it for next 5 years, then equity is definitely part of your options.
Okay.
So again, see, the best thing to do is here, do your homework, because anybody who gives you ready-made answer is most likely not work for you. So it's very important for you to do your own basic homework, and then maybe whenever somebody gives an answer, then you will also have the background to weigh that whether that option is working for you or not. Because whether you go to any advisor or any bank advisor and all, it's likely that you will get the chances of getting a wrong advice are a lot more, or getting a wrong product is a lot more than getting a right product or right advice.
Yes, ma'am.
You ask this question to your bank manager, you will get a very different answer. You ask to some LIC agent, again a very different answer. So make sure that you have done your homework, so that anybody who gives you answer, you are able to again figure out whether it is whether that will work for you or not. So if you say that okay, you are the only person earning member, then easily your emergency fund has to be a lot more of a priority. And unless you have 6 months, 7 months, or 1 year of spend in an emergency, there is no point looking at something which is very risky. Yeah.
Ma'am, please tell about ma'am IPO.
IPO, tell me specific questions. So IPO, basically, I think we covered some part of it where it's the first time when the company is offering the share to public. It is initial public offering, and there are a whole host of IPOs lined up now. So I think there is Zomato, which is coming next week. There is Clean Science.
Yes, ma'am. My question is should I invest in Zomato IPO or not, ma'am? This is my final question.
I can't answer you whether you should or you should not, because
Yes,
it
ma'am.
depends on you, right? Whether you see sense in that. But have you studied? Do you know whether the money is going to the company or is it giving as an exit to the PE investor? So see, any IPO also know that there is a company which is raising new money, which they will use as their own growth capital, or it will be given to some investors who want to exit. So they offer their shares to public and they exit. Now, if there are PE investors who want to exit, there is no reason for us to, and if they are exiting, clearly they have seen that the company has grown beyond a point. And now they don't see much of a growth and they want to exit and give that to retail investors. So if you ask me personally, I am not going to invest in Zomato IPO. But whether you should invest or not is definitely your call. But don't take the decision without studying.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, please explain rule of 72 once again.
72 is basically, let me just show it again. I'll just present again. Yeah. So it basically shows at what period will it double your money. So if somebody says that, okay, the interest rate is 9%, let's say it's a 72 divided by so 72 divided by the interest rate is the number of years to double the money.
Okay,
so let's say
thank you,
that, let's say interest rate is 2%. So 72 divided by 2, which is 34 years to double the money. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. I have one question.
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, what is the thought process behind the small cap companies which will going to be become large cap? How to find? There are so many companies in stock exchange.
Yeah. So see, all these are like really hard work. Okay, I don't think I also will be not qualified enough to tell you that. But what you can definitely do, there are a lot of these tools available like Screener. Then there is.
Ma'am, yes, there are. But ma'am, I want to ask ma'am, what is your thought process behind it? If you choose.
You will have to keep tracking these companies, right? If you go to Screener and see that okay, there is some companies which have been consistently growing their top line, they are consistently generating cash, and they are in an industry which is going likely to grow. Like let's say these days there are a lot of companies in this pharma and specialty chemicals, which everybody is saying that okay, there is the whole all the global companies so far reliant on China as their chemical or specialty chemical or pharma supply. They are now looking at pharma plus China plus one. So basically, they want one Indian supplier in addition to their Chinese supplier. So if the companies which are like this, then obviously, then somebody who is having that kind of product, some fine chemicals, specialty chemicals, and consistently growing, and of course the management is transparent, you don't see any corporate governance issues, then those are the good companies to eventually become big.
Thank you, ma'am.
But it's again a lot of hard work to do that. So it's a one easy thing to do. It's basically like it's a shortcut. Again, there are small cap funds. So you can go to the small cap fund, figure out who's holding which fund, which company, and any small cap fund which is having holding any company, then you can be sure that the fund manager has done his due diligence and he has invested in those companies. So then you are reducing your universe. Instead of like looking at 5,000 companies, now you just have 50 companies which some fund manager is tracking and owning and a part of some high growth fund. And then what you can do is you can then track only those companies and then probably take 3-4 out of them as your investment horizon.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please go
ma'am.
ahead.
Yeah, can you guide me with these three companies? I wrote in the text. I mean, in the message box. I want your views on Wellspoon Corp and then Petronaut LNG and Indus Tower.
I have no idea. I told you I will not be able to give you any stock specific advice.
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, what about NFO? Should one invest in NFO? I mean, mutual fund, that new fund offering.
Yeah, new fund offering. See, if you there are a lot of these international new funds which are coming. So if you think that you need some exposure into say Chinese market or an American market, then yeah, it does make sense to do that. But when you invest in a new fund, please remember that there is no track record. So you are completely going on something which is zero. So that versus you have some fund which already has a reasonable track record, then it always makes sense to go with something which has a track record. Then and what happens in generally new funds, if you understand how mutual fund works, what these people will the fund house will do is they gather all the money, and of course they can deploy in one shot, right? Because if let's say there is a 500 crore which they have taken as an AFO, and they put all the 500 crore the following day in the market will go to a different high altogether. So what they have to do is they have to stagger their investment. They will part investment in this week, and then probably they'll take 6 months to deploy the entire NFO money.
Yes,
so you basically are what you are doing is you are losing on that gain. And if you really want to put versus that, if you are putting in a fund which is already there, then they don't have 500 crore coming the following day, right? They are just having a trickle of investment. So their ability to deploy is much faster. And for you to start getting the return, the meter will start much faster than NFO. NFO, the meter will probably start after 3 months, 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you see in terms of pure common sense, it doesn't make sense to put money in NFO.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a short question. You have been working in this, equity industry and related things, wealth management for around 20 plus years. So one thing is, if you look at current condition of market, and PE ratios are all time high almost. So
yeah.
Then, I mean, it has been the condition. It could have been the condition in past as well. How do you keep up? I mean, you are not able to match your fundamentals with whatever price we are saying. And how do you keep yourself, motivated or positive? I mean, why should I invest in this condition?
So good question. See, when you say why should I invest, if you are going to invest for next 1 year or 6 months, then you must not invest. But if you think that okay, I'm investing for next 5 years, then it makes sense to invest in this also. And nobody knows where the market will be, right? Anybody who says that, I think there is probably Warren Buffett's quotes or something. There are only two people who can tell you where the market will go. The first one is God and the other one is liar. So anybody who says that okay, this is what is going to happen, then you first thing you have to do is to at least go 10 kilometers away from that person and forget everything that he has told. So I don't think it really, nobody can track it and nobody can say it with certainty, and anybody who's saying with certainty definitely don't know what is going to happen. So as I said, it's very, very personal. You figure out your horizon, what is your risk appetite, and accordingly go ahead. And these days there are so many other vehicles to do it. So even if you want to do it, you can put your money in, let's say, a liquid fund and do that systematic with transfer plan. So every month, instead of putting lump sum, you can put the lump sum in liquid and put part every month. So that way you are staggering your investment instead of putting everything in one shot.
Yeah. One way is that, and other way could be hedging it with some other assets, like I could buy gold as well.
Yeah, the
That
gold is anyway going down, so it just makes sense that you can try and hedge against that. Or so there are ways to manage all those things, but don't do anything because somebody has told you. Do it because you have studied and understood, and that's why you are doing it.
So that in those high conditions, high PE market, I can keep myself motivated. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone has last question? I think we should wrap up this session now. It's past 1 and
yeah,
1 hour. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to pitch in for Alok's question about crypto. Okay. So like ma'am said that if we understand the business properly, then we should go for it. Understand? So if Alok understands crypto and if he sees the growth potential in it, then he should go for it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it is important to understand the business.
Very, very.
Yeah. So that's the answer for Alok's question. Yeah. That's all.
But Suraj, as well as we need to understand regulations as well. If tomorrow government says crypto exchanges are banned in India, then what will you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it is banned, then we need to go to the dark web already. That's a high road. We should not take it.
All right. Anybody has any feedback? Is there something that you like? Has it inspired you to do something different with your money? Or is it something which you realize that, okay, this is what I was not doing, or I should be starting with this? I would really like to hear that any feedback that you have, or anything that if it has given you any reason to do something differently.
Yes, one thing for me, I think it was not mixing two goals in one investment, like retirement as well as insurance and retirement, things like that.
Yeah.
A takeaway for me.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Good to know that.
Yeah, ma'am, it was a really great session, and the most important thing people should know before investment that you told us is that we should have an emergency fund and all about the medical insurance and term investment, all that. So that is really a prerequisite before investing. So people must be aware of that, and you made it a lot clear.
Yeah, because what happens is, see, if you have not created a emergency fund, or if you don't have medical and you put all your money in, let's say for example, you have invested this and suddenly then you don't, and when you want money, then you can't really time the market. Then you have to withdraw whether your share upper and niche hai, you can't really figure out. And then it's a huge heartburn to withdraw money when the shares are down and you are actually booking losses and taking the money. So when you have something like an emergency fund, you know that even if the market is down, you don't really have to worry. Let it be down. Whatever you need, you already have. There's no reason for you to book money and lose capital.
Okay. I guess That's all from the QA side. So Seema, can you take over? Hello, Seema.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an enlightening and engaging session today. With your insightful advice, I'm sure all of us have gained some perspective on managing our personal finance and we'll apply it someday. And we'll really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your precious time and sharing your wisdom with us, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Nishikant, for the opportunity. Thank you, all of you, for your time. I hope this will help you and inspires you to do something nicer, better with your
Thank you,
money.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. I'll exit now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Nishikant and team as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.